Yeah. There's a sound coming from somewhere.
Yeah, I just thought there was some background music before you start, man. I was quite surprised. But
No,
obviously,
not planned.
somebody's starting Visarjan 1 week earlier.
Yeah, that's not me. That's not me. So just to request, guys, if you're not on the question, if you can put yourself on the mute, that would be helpful.
Yeah, whoever did that right now, thank you.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, guys, we can start right away. First of all, welcome to the first UpGrad Hangout session. We had an overwhelming response to our first Hangout session with Ronnie. I think the entire objective is for you guys to A, get to understand and know UpGrad better, B, also to get clarity for your entrepreneurial thinking and your entrepreneurial thoughts. And I think there's no one better than Ronnie to probably answer some of your questions. Just to sort of set the context and let you guys know, and I spoke to the 8 lucky participants. So we received an overwhelming response from where we shortlisted 8 participants to ask Ronnie live questions. Another sort of tidbit that I wanted to share with you guys, we had the first applicant of our program to come and meet Ronnie in person as well. Again, sort of another statistics, the questions that were raised for this session came from about 8 countries across the world. So it's the first program, and we were very sort of pleased with the kind of response that we got. For those who are checking us out and watching us live on the Hangout, I have a request. If you want to put your questions on Twitter, you can use hashtag UpGradHangouts, Hangouts with an S at the end. You can comment live on the YouTube link as well that has been shared with you guys. And for those on Google Hangout, the chat window is always available. Feel free to use that to put your questions. So just to introducing our first set of the 8 lucky participants that made it through for live questioning Ronnie. We have Mayuresh, Kevin, Hetal, Chandan, Balaji, Rohit, Hitesh, and Vijay. So guys,
Hi.
So I'll just pass it on. Let's start with Mayuresh asking the first question to Ronnie. So Ronnie, tough time starts for you now.
Okay, sounds good. Mayuresh?
Hi Ronnie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great, perfect. So just a very short background. My name is Mayuresh, and I'm working in this particular startup. I'm one of the co-founders for the last 2 years, Customer 360, and we are into customer engagement space, and we provide technology to contact centers, call centers, for non-voice channels. So whether it is video chat, in-app, mobile app, communication, so on and so forth. So personal WhatsApp for your mobile app, so on and so forth. That's a very brief.
Mm-hmm.
And the question that I have for you this evening is, it's on work-life balance. And I've been married for some time. I've had a child last year, so she is almost 10 and a half, 11 months old. And how do we kind of for an Indian entrepreneur, if I'm just maybe generalizing this a fair too much, but how do you kind of address the work-life balance? Because there's no weekend, there are late night calls. I mean, there's everything that you can I mean, you've possibly done it first time. So any tips practically?
Sure. So let me jump right in, and these are all personalized ones because each one needs to have their own work-life balance. So I think it varies from person to person. I think firstly, before I even talk about what that would mean, I think the first and most important part that you need to be very clear about is, are you really enjoying what you're doing? Because is it your passion? Is it also your hobby? Is it everything else that kind of absorbs you and sucks you in? Because I think that's a very important element. And the reason I say that is because I've found that part of work-life balance is also about having strong interests, strong hobbies, something you enjoy. And if your work in whatever form, because of its creativity, because of its technology, because of innovation, allows you to almost substitute that as a hobby too, I think that takes care of a little bit of that. Then that boils down to time with parents, family, i.e. wife, and sort of young kids.
Precisely.
And I think, to that one, there is no central answer. But, I think now more than ever, in a sense, because of technology, we can do a little bit of both. So it really depends on your prioritization as far as that is concerned. And the prioritization can happen. I mean, I think, and that's a culture that I think if you set in even with the rest of your team members, it's a little bit of a work hard but play hard context. So if you want to just bracket out Sunday, there's no real reason why you can't take a one full day off. I think you need to believe in two things. One, as I said, that you really enjoy your work. The second one is that some of the most productive time that you will spend, even for yourself, is actually the time you will spend outside of your work parameter and therefore in your work-life balance. Because to me, you'll come back refreshed. So you need to look at that as part of your actual quota. The pressure that we all face is we get so bogged down with the operational aspects and the need for us to feel to the external world, to our staff, to our customers, that we are constantly on call. Because you want to lead from the front, you want to lead by example, and therefore you feel, okay, if I'm not 24/7, then my key team members won't be 24/7. I think half that pressure we build in. So I think, let's be clear, 50% of what you need to do is the pressure. How are you breaking up that and how are you not creating pressure for yourself to do that? And then I think it's not about time management because that's not the easiest thing to do. But if you've had the luxury where you've been in business for a few years, like you've been married for a few years and now have a kid, how much are you really delegating? Because, because if you are a control freak, I don't think you're going to find the right work-life balance in any case. So that would be a sort of a third criterion and sort of a pin to put there as to how obsessive are you in terms of being a control freak. Because then it's going to all-encompass you. Then it doesn't make a difference where you're physically on Sundays taking time off. You'd be so absorbed with that your wife and kid will be asking you, are you so distracted? Why don't you just go to work? And that's not a solution either. So I think it's a combination of those three. Does that help? A couple of pennies drops when we talk?
Yeah, definitely. Something key pointers there.
Yeah. But enjoy what you're doing because that takes care of a lot.
Correct.
When you see that sense of enjoyment, a little bit of happiness comes in so that it kind of permeates the rest of the family also. Because quality time is not about you spending a physical Sunday at home, but most of the time you're distracted, everyone else is distracted, and you just feel for the naam ke vaste kiya. So I think the quota system doesn't work in life. And I think your family will appreciate the selective time that you spend with them as long as they're happy and they know you're happy. I think that's when it also counts. And don't discount the fact that you're doing this out of obligation because it'll show up to the rest of the family. Do it because you're well set, you're happy, and it's showing that the time you're having with them, it's also allowing you to de-stress and unwind. Because if you don't zoom out, you're not going to be fresh the next day. Please understand that. It's obligatory.
Yeah.
And thanks.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mayuresh. We'll move on to Kevin, who has his question on his business idea and lack of experience in that. Go ahead, Kevin.
Kevin, go ahead.
I think Kevin is on mute.
Kevin, are you on mute?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, now we can hear you. You're not very clear. Mayank, can you hear him clearly?
No, not very clear, Kevin. Yeah, go ahead.
Better. Yes. Better. Go ahead.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not fully sure whether there's a full question in there, but let me try and attempt to answer it in some form. Firstly, I think your first point that I caught up was that you said, for the last 2-3 years, you've been working on this idea. Now, that's a pretty long period of time. For you, it's not, because that's fantastic that at 15 you thought of getting out and doing something on your own, and that's kudos to that. The bad news is that regardless of your age and when you started or thought about it, the fact of the matter is that taking 2 to 3 years is a challenge, because obviously the world was going to change every 3 months and 6 months, and specifically in the kind of region and in the business that you're looking to do. I think that the second part is it's an absolute reality that it's not like every second minute somebody's coming up. You should assume that every time you come up with a bright idea, at least 30 more people have thought of the idea. So the question is, how are you going to implement that, and the speed of implementation for what you want to do. Now, none of this that I'm telling you is new. It's all pretty much straight out there. My personal viewpoint, just hearing you out and speaking out of turn a little bit, would be, given your age and given the fact that you are extremely keen and committed to want to do something on your own, but at the same time don't have the wherewithal to pin an idea, endorse it, and have the confidence to do it, and have an execution plan and get a team to do that. And I think that will take its time. I think maybe the next 2-3 years you should spend either working with a core startup, or if you can find 1 or 2 co-founders that complement you in some of the other aspects, and that's your first business to start. Because I can say drop a plan, get into execution, do this, do that, but that's not really going to move the needle or help you. I think given your background and where you're at right now, either join a startup so that you get an incredible amount of work experience, and you'll see it unfolding as you go forward. And I say startup because you're going to be a startup 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line, whatever time framework that works out. So you'll know how it worked out. And I think you need that learning curve at your age and stage. And work with finding 1 or 2 co-founders. That would be my basic input to you. Because to say, go find a business plan, go do this, get an execution plan, those are all textbook stuff. So I really can't tell you much about that. So I think experience, if it's not experience, it's going to be a huge learning over a period of time. So the simple answer is no, it may not necessarily be that you, because everyone has to start somewhere, and obviously when the starting point may not be with experience. And some people will start with much less experience because they're just graduating out of college or they're graduating out of school, and therefore a work or professional life and or working somewhere else or having had a startup or working for 1 or 2 years with someone always would help. But it's not an absolute mandate. But then comes a lot of clarity about what you want to do and the ability to make it happen. If you're in that zone where you feel I'm constantly bubbling with ideas, but nothing ever takes off, then you need to pause and figure out that I've got some strengths, but I've got some weaknesses, and then I've got to work on those weaknesses. Because if you constantly come up with bubbling ideas and new ideas, the idea is not to come up with new ideas. The idea is once you fixate on one, how do you get going with them? And that's what you need to keep in your mind as you go forward.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. We'll move on to Hetal. Hetal, go ahead with your question, please.
Hi, Ronnie.
Hi.
The first 5 minutes of our conversation, because there was some net problem. My question was on price war. When you have competitors who have the same product and they slash their price just to get a client. In that scenario, what do you do? And also, question related to outstanding. I mean, when the clients don't pay up bills on time, what happens is, because they have been your regular clients, you've been supplying material to them since years, you feel, you know, you don't want to lose out on a client, and the credit goes on increasing. So how to tackle that?
Well, what's your differentiator would be the first question. What are you looking at? Is it all about boiling down to price, or is there something that you're offering in your service? Because you cannot stop an environment where price competitiveness is going to be a reality. It's been there for a long period of time. It's happened in the sort of industrial age also, where automobiles to everybody else, to any service business, has always been competitive. The leisure and trade industry and service industry has also been very competitive. So competitive pricing from airlines to hotels to oil and gas to anything, or to automobiles, will always be there. It's not specific to your industry. Then the question comes in as to what is it that's standing out. Now, if you want to continuously go with the price war, you may not be running a business, and especially at a startup, I would not recommend that at all, because either you're going to be heavily funded, but that will also end at a particular point in time unless you can contribute that. So I think if somebody is working on a price discount and you can't match that with either a unique or a service offering or whatever else you want to do, is it a product? Is it a service? It'll have to have a different approach for service. It'll have to have a different approach for product. What your cost model is. Sometimes it's the cost model. Is your competitiveness more on cost? Is your competitiveness much more on quality? Is your competitiveness much more in the uniqueness of the product or some features of that product or offering? Those are what you really need to be thinking about, rather than worrying about if somebody's discounting. That's a reality, and it's only going to get more, because in this 21st century, where most businesses are worked on that model as you go forward, you will find people that to garner customer share, they will discount very heavily, and then it becomes the survival of the longest haul, and the survival of not even the fittest, the survival of the people who take a much more longer view in life. And I don't think you'd be able to compete in that space.
Right.
Does that make sense for you?
Yes. And what about the outstanding payments, when clients don't pay up on time? That's.
But are you in a B2B or B2C?
We are B2B.
Yeah. No, that I think for the business that you're in, that's a judgment call you'll have to take very early in your life, because this is very costly. If you're dealing at a particular level where anyway your margins are under pressure, and then you deal with quality of clients who are not going to pay unless they're constantly disputing the service that you're rendering to them, and therefore not paying, which you go back to your product or service offering as to why people are not paying. But if you're picking clients in desperation who otherwise don't pay, then your business model is sunk. And let's be very clear, your next supporters are not going to come in, because receivables means unsatisfied clients or bad choice of clients. Both are not acceptable for a business long term.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Hetal. We'll hand over to Chandan now. Chandan, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Hi, Ronnie. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. First of all, very good evening, and would like to say that it's my pleasure to get an opportunity to get in touch with you through this medium. Before I start my question, I would like to just add on to the earlier points what you have mentioned to answering one of the participants' question. You said when you are in a zone where you get multiple ideas and you don't know how to start and where to start with, you should join a startup or work with a co-founder. How often do you think the market provides a viability to work with such startups and co-founders? Because end of the day, even startups too are looking for candidates who have some understanding of the product or the market they are into. Even the co-founders, they want somebody who is experienced, who knows the market little more than what they are, which is why they are looking for somebody else.
Answer that question. Look, firstly, if you're going to plan to be an entrepreneur, you should figure about how often does the market do that. It's an opportunity you're going to create for yourself. Number two, actually, you will find that startups are looking for either interns or resources that are smart and are entrepreneurial by nature, but may not be experienced, that they can train. And they'll be in much focused jobs. So they'll be happy to bring you in on a focused job, because they know that kind of a resource, because you're entrepreneurial in nature, your DNA will be to be solution-oriented and not problem-oriented, if they like what you stand for. And therefore, they will welcome that. Obviously, you're going to come in at very low cost, because you want to learn knowing your ultimate ambition from that point of view. So I think that's a marketplace you have to create. If you can't land yourself into a startup, chances are it's going to be a tough journey for you to be an entrepreneur.
Okay, and now to start with my question, I had a question where I think I have multiple ideas in my mind. I don't know where to start with. So if I have to pitch my idea to somebody who is of a similar-minded guy who believes that my idea is a worthwhile investment, so how could I find a place where I can pitch my idea to the venture capitalist or investors? So how do you think I should approach?
So I think firstly you need to understand: are you building the business for your investor, or are you building the business for yourself? Answer that question first. Okay, and until you answer that question, then it's a very temporary basis. So if you've got multiple ideas, who's going to finally decide which is the business that you want to go into? Because finally you got to run that business. So if you have 3 ideas, which is the one you want to actually be part of and run as you go forward? Which is the business you want to run? If it's going to be driven by whichever gets funded, there's a decent possibility that 1 or 2 years down the line you find this is not the business that you would have really wanted to do. Partly your passion, partly experience, partly anything else. Second, I doubt whether any investor, if they're having a conversation with you like this, would want to put in money. They want people with purpose, with clarity, with risk-taking ability and all of that. So if you're going to go and tell them, look, I got these 3 ideas, I'm happy for you to listen to those 3 ideas and tell me which one you'll fund, I don't believe there'll be anybody willing to fund it. Of course, of late, there are many angel investors who feel they're going to be left out of the race if they don't fund somebody with a bright idea. So notwithstanding those exceptional situations, which may last for a temporary period of time, you need to figure out what you want to do. You need to lead from the front. You need to have that clarity. And one of the criterions is getting funded from it. That's not the only criterion to get into business, because it'll be very short-lived.
So do you think I should come up with some, I'm just trying to understand, what are the prerequisites we should keep in mind before we approach such angel investors or venture capitalists? So let's say I just jotted down my ideas and I came up with one final idea which I want to start with. Now what next?
Can you find your first employee? Can you find a co-founder? Why is your entire benchmark based on what an angel investor would do? If you had 50,000 rupees of your own, would you put into it? If you had 5 lakhs of your own, would you put into it? If a family member was to seed it from you, take those criterions, because I think a lot of us get completely obsessed with the criterion of an angel investor. That's just the beginning. Supposing an angel investor were to come in and do it, and they give you the first 1 lakh, 5 lakhs, 50 lakhs, whatever it is that you're looking for, then what? Have you got that clarity of where you want to and the purpose of what you're going to do? Because the next 50 lakhs will be the most impossible ones to get if you're not clear about it. So I think your axis, your x-axis has to be changed to a y-axis.
Got it.
It's a tough answer. Obviously, you don't seem very satisfied from your facial expression. Does that make sense to you or not?
No, sometimes I just honestly feel that, people with a lot of ideas, but they don't have, the kind of investment what they are looking for. They tend to go backward.
There's a reason for that. If you're not showing me clarity, you won't get the backing.
Okay.
People want to back clarity. People want to back conviction. People who want to back, obviously, a good idea with a strong execution plan, strong timelines, a possible team, a leader who's going to be able to lead and take it forward, and a real entrepreneur. But if you're fishing for your endorsements, no, I don't think that's a good idea at all. So there's good reason why those people are not getting funded.
Okay, so what you're saying is first come up with a plan and have a team of your own, and then pitch yourself up.
You get clear. You get clear. You get clear and say that this is what my idea is. Now I'll find somebody who wants to buy into this idea. I've got four ideas.
Fair enough. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thanks, Chandan. Our next question is from Balaji.
Thank you, Mayan.
Go ahead, Balaji. We can hear you.
Yeah. Hi, Ronnie. And good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
Yes, I heard it. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm currently working in the corporate sector. And the question is related to finding a co-founder. Let's say I may have a brilliant idea to solve a social problem with technology? What if I lack the technical skills or experience? How does one tread this path successfully?
You know, I'll give you some first blunt advice, and don't take it amiss. But you know, if you want to be an entrepreneur, the articulation of your question cannot be one that is read. So at some stage, you're going to have to stop writing down a question. It has to come from your thought process. Otherwise, I don't think you're necessarily got that readiness to go out there. And I noticed that you kind of sort of read out the question. And I'm thinking, no, what is in your heart? What is your mind? What is the most curious thing that you're feeling right now? What is the most insecure feeling you're thinking? What is the most secure feeling you're feeling? And I think that's going to be quite important. So I'm going to ask you now, re-ask me the question without looking at that piece of paper so that I can hear it from your mind or your heart.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I've got a brilliant idea to solve a social problem with technology.
Okay.
Okay. So what I think is that, okay, I don't possess the required technology skills. This is what makes me feel. I mean, it's a thinking, at least it's a mental block for me.
Okay.
Because of which I'm not taking that no.
Okay. What's the question now?
So I'm thinking that if I found, sorry.
What's the question?
Sorry, I said that if there is a mental block.
No, I got that. So what's your question?
Not having the required technology skills.
Yeah.
So can I find, I mean, how do I find a co-founder who can complement that skill? This is what my question is.
So a couple of things. I mean, firstly, a co-founder is not where you go find a needle in a haystack or you figure out that there are 10 or 15 people and you'll go forward. One of the most difficult but also very onerous things is to find a co-founder. And, you know, chances are that, you know, there's going to be at least some history once you all get to each other. You can't just interview a candidate and say, okay, so he's my first candidate, so he's going to be a co-founder. Hi, would you like to own 10% of the company? Because that's not going to work. Because somebody that you want to employ or somebody comes with an employment mindset will not necessarily be the co-founder. So it's not going to be an easy task to go find a co-founder. Second, you're coming from a corporate background, and you need to be first clear about your will to be an entrepreneur, your will to take the risks. It's one thing to say, I lack the technological background. My first question would be, if you've thought through so clearly a product that you think is brilliant by your own description, it has to be, of course, tested, that is based on technology for the social sector, and if you're not a technology person, how do you come to the conclusion that it's such a good idea in the first place, since you're so low on technology? And you need to question that as to why. Either you know, there's a strength there or there's a weakness there. Second, I think for a co-founder, you know, there's got to be a lot more in chemistry than just finding that first technology guy that's going to come your way. But third and most important is you need to first assess whether you're ready to take the entrepreneurial jump, because otherwise it's going to be tough. What you'll then find is people with the same kind of mindset as you in the beginning, which is that, you know, somebody in the corporate background, you meet more people in the corporate background, two people in the corporate background want to jump ship. You know, I would say everything is possible, so it can work, but it's a tough combination, because then the complementary skills where each of you all can challenge each other, maybe what you need is somebody who's already been an entrepreneur in some sense. And it's a long haul. It might take a year to find your co-founder, which means that you should have identified somebody in 6 months or 1 or 2 people. Then you spend the next 3 to 6 months to figure out whether that person qualifies as a co-founder in the first place. And this is based on your present experience. You know, if you've done this 5 times before, it might take 1 or 2 months. But if you've not done it before, I think you have to be dead sure, because the worst thing is to find co-founder and then the whole thing doesn't work and then it starts collapsing on you. But coming back to your present crossroad, are you ready to be an entrepreneur is the question you need to ask yourself. There are no formula answers for that, and I think you need to probe as to why you're still sitting on the corporate world why aren't you taking the plunge and saying, I'm going to start off my first 3 months? Because if you don't do this captive, the other part is a lot of people sit on the fence and start saying, okay, I'm going to do this till I'm ready, until I find a co-founder, until this is done, until that's done, I'm carrying on my job. Very difficult. Very, very, very difficult. And chances are a year or two may go by and you may not find the right solutions. So I'm not recommending either of them, but I'm just saying it's time for some really tough answers and only you can answer them.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Ronnie.
Thank you.
Before we move on, we are getting a lot of questions on Twitter as well. Ronnie, there is a question from Kush Mishra. His question is, are Indian investors interested in funding an Indian thing? Hardware, yes, B2C startup. So concern of the fact that hardware product startups don't go that well.
I think we keep second guessing investor climates a lot here. And I the whole thing is almost like startup is equal to my first benchmark is investment. I don't know what happened to the days or the time, and I think most of you all would see that some of the ones that have now got well funded or started up didn't start on the basis of them being just in that beginning, what's the criterion for a funding. Sometimes you've got to be able to have proof of implementation in what you want to do. So the question seems to board with, I'm not that sure about my proof of implementation. I'm looking for an investor to endorse it, and I think that's flawed. On the flip side, I think to answer that question in a very specific manner, I think there are investors in anything, because people are backing first the entrepreneur, second the vision and the execution plan, and third the propensity of a team, and fourth, equally important to the first one, which is entrepreneur, which is the size of the market. So I think it all depends on some of those criteria. Otherwise, it's not going to fly in any case. But again, I would urge people to think through the fact that this whole basis and criteria that everything is an audition for an investor is not going to be the best way to start a business.
All right, perfect. There is a bit of echo.
Yes, there is a massive echo.
If I can pick up this, is this any better?
I think so.
Ronnie, the next question is from Rohit. Rohit, just pass on to Rohit to ask his question.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Rohit.
Rohit is on.
Can't hear you, Rohit. Are you on mute?
No, I think Rohit just dropped off.
Okay. Should we go to someone else?
Yeah. So the next one is from Hitesh.
Hi Ronnie. I'm co-gen So I think one already answered. Sorry, after you answer. My other question is, when you're an investor with probably an extended vision where your product isn't ready in the beginning. So we are at the crossroads of trying to raise a pre-seed round versus explaining a bigger vision, or rather creating a product which has a longer vision. So how do I tackle that? I mean, I'm rather more keen on rather running into someone who's actually looking for a revenue model, and sometimes that's the clash. So do we sort of build something which has a revenue model and attracts an investor, or do we go with the long-term vision which might take 2 to 3 years to build and require a lot of funds before we put a business model around it? What's your take on that?
What is the business you want to build? Because if you can't articulate the business you want to build, and you'll be true to yourself, and then find people who will back that vision, rather than creating the vision in the eyes of somebody else, because it's not going to be yours, nor is it going to be theirs, because they're coming in there thinking, I'm backing your vision. You're saying, yes, but I told you, and then you said, no, I was thinking no revenue model, but you said revenue model, so I moved to that, or vice versa. What is the business that you want to build?
Right. So essentially, we want to help students know more about the effective career options and prepare throughout their journey on a website through simulations. But without having a tech co-founder, we really feel that that vision of probably hiring someone and getting some synergies and then building the extended product would eventually take a lot of time. So again, I mean, we are rather running into people who are individuals for a pre-seed round, and we're more interested.
That time of your implementation and execution of your business.
Sorry?
How is the angel investor coming in or not coming in, cutting short in any way or making it more efficient of actually developing that product or what you just said? Because you're going to have those challenges in any case, right?
Right. So. But
yes,
yes, I mean, so the larger vision is just to help students throughout the route and then probably come up with a low-cost solution, which means we really don't want to put a price around it until there are, say, X users or Y users. So we are finding it a little difficult to sell that vision as of now. So I just wanted to, get some perspective on how are probably young entrepreneurs being seen at this moment, and
age is not a criterion for anybody. I don't think there's a question of young entrepreneurs. I mean, I think we've got enough of the test cases, both in Silicon Valley, where people started at 15, 16, 17. I just had a great conversation with our OYO founder, and he comes from a very, very young background. So I don't think entrepreneurs investors are looking at age as a background at all, and it's not a question of young. Young is not about age. Young is about the rawness of your plan, the clarity again of your thought, and it all comes out in the first 2 times. The conviction. If again, individual investors who feel is a good friend and wants to back you, notwithstanding, but most, whether they're savvy angel, savvy whatever investors, they're looking for clear articulation and something which gives them the sense that this is going to be seen through. So I think that's why you all need to nail down what is it that you want to do and almost say, I'm starting. And in that journey, you're getting an angel investor. And in the beginning, cut your coat according to your cloth to figure out what is required to do that. But anyone who's getting on with their journey and not waiting for that investor, I think is getting more likelihood of getting funded than somebody who's just got this plan, then pauses and waits for an investor, because in 3 or 4 months, again, 30 more people will come up with the idea. 1 or 2 of your people may be tired of waiting and move on. You haven't really progressed it much more because you feel now I need to wait for an investor and his or her endorsement of the thought process. So that's tricky. So no, I don't think how young an entrepreneur is important. How clear is the entrepreneur? What is their ability for risk-taking? Have they been able to cudgel together something? Is there even the slightest bit of proof of implementation? I think makes a big difference. And proof of implementation can be product, could be part of the product development, could be complete clarity of thought in the technology, could be the fact that you'll have cudgeled together and there are 3 diverse founders, but one can see in one meeting that the complementary skills of these 3 founders will complete the whole circle. All of these are signals.
Right. And that's sort of
Thank you.
All right, perfect. So the next question is from Vijay. Vijay, please go ahead.
Hello, Ronnie, and hello to everyone. First thing, thanks for the invite and opportunity to participate in this event. Ronnie, this is my first question. I hope you're able to hear me.
Hear you so far.
So my first question is this: what are the required traits for a successful entrepreneur in this generation? Just looking back at the last 2 decades of entrepreneurship and thinking about the next 2 decades, the type of the entrepreneur is going to come in. What will be your thoughts on this?
So I think, for me at least, that absolute conviction has to show up at a very early stage, because almost everybody, however bright, however well thought through, is going to have a lot of setbacks, a lot of failures that will turn into setbacks, a lot of challenging moments, a lot of pivots. So I think first will be conviction, because that conviction will see them through the downtime. Otherwise, they're going to run at the first and the second part in which they have the setbacks. And I would consider that to be a very strong one. Second is clarity, and I've sort of said that a lot in this last 39 minutes that we've gone through the Hangout so far, is clarity, 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 because it shows up. And clarity is not based on 4 slides that you'll make. Clarity is what you can articulate by looking at someone in the eye and getting their sense of downloading of what they're thinking through. Third is the assembly of the sort of, have you been able to get endorsements from team members? Have you been able to cudgel together even 1 or 2 members in the plan? Sometimes they're co-founders, sometimes it could be just team members. But if you can cudgel 1 or 2 people who have that same faith in you, I think that's going to be very important. So I think those definitely stand out as the clear-cut ones in the beginning of one goes. As you evolve and you're an entrepreneur, different qualities have to come through. So this is at the starting gate. If you ask me if somebody who's already been 5 years an entrepreneur, what's the next thought process, I'd talk about scale, I'd talk about other stuff. But in the beginning, there's no point in me giving you some of the other ones on scale and everything else, because you're at that startup stage.
Sure. Thank you very much. And I have a couple more questions. Hope we have time here. My second question is.
That depends on Mayank.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's time for one more question, Vijay. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
The second question. I had many years, and then the business idea here is that I was looking at something towards the health and fitness. Now, here, what is your opinion about a business idea that can help bringing health and happiness to the people at their doorsteps, who would like to invest some of their time on a busy day, like a 20 minutes, and those who can invest about 50 cents per day as an investment. The reason why I think this idea is great, first thing is I invested about 35 years of my time engaging myself into this field, and today the basic need of people is not money and food. Most of the world population moved beyond these needs and the abundance of food around and money for the basic needs. Now, this abundance is also leading people into another epidemic called fitness and peace. This is the other side of the coin called which is ignored and neglected by the current society. So, I think that this idea is a great fit for this particular generation and many more years to come. So what is your thought on this one?
Thought is that you've taken the better part of 2 minutes explaining something, but I haven't got the idea. And I think what's the product, what's the offering, what's the idea? Because because again, as I said, there's no surfeit of good ideas. Yes, I mean, it's experience. You've had that experience and you've gone through with it. And the idea right now is not for you to spend the next 2 minutes articulating the idea, but give me your question of what you're looking at. Because if it's a specific one that says, here's my idea, what do I think of it? Okay, I'll give you a viewpoint, but what difference does that make? Because it really depends on you and how you want to take that forward. But in a more broader sense,
sure,
it's good that you have experienced something and based on that you've been inspired to come up with this thought process. But I would say that you need to articulate that in 4 words, 5 words, or 1 line. What is it that you're talking about? What product or service? Give it to me in 5 or 6 words.
Okay, the product is health and happiness. And that which as a product we want to bring in front of the people, to the general public, so that, rather than going to the gym or somewhere else, they get that at their doorsteps and they will be able to invest some
What
time.
Is health and happiness? Just 1 sec. So what do you mean by health and happiness? I didn't, because again, I need you to be a lot more articulate, and I'm forcing you to do that right now, not because I don't think I'm getting it, but I genuinely believe that you need to, if you can't articulate your answer in 1 line, it's your first challenge.
Sure. The highlights will
be happiness at your doorstep. I mean, what does that mean? Because
when I mean by health, it is to educate the basics of health and about how to use physical fitness, or how to eat, or how to make themselves fit in this busy world. That's the main point.
Yeah, but I think in India, there's so much of it that happens with one-on-one relationships with, as I said again, with your yoga or some of the other ones. There are tons of apps that have already infiltrated the market here. There are many of those bands and many else that are going out in that. So again, what's your product? What you talked about is a lifestyle statement, which is like a thought leadership statement, and not got your product. And again, not to beleaguer and spend the whole time with everybody else on what your product is. I think it's a question of you need to articulate that, because you're giving me a lifestyle statement, not a product.
The product will be consisting of a simple framework, which I haven't seen in any of the fitness world. Whether there may be a yoga or there may be any other programs which is going on, but none of these programs go beyond and explain how to eat, or how to do a workout, or how to rest yourself, how to motivate yourself, how to keep yourself happy. And when all these things are not complete together, the product will fail. And most of the cases, which is available today in the market, it's not providing all this to the customers.
Yeah, so maybe I can just end by saying two things. One, I think that space is an interesting one. It's very scalable because India is becoming an extremely aspirational country. Our consumption story for everything to do with lifestyles, a healthy living, a balanced living is just about starting up. So there are massive opportunities there. What I would also state is, on a specific to your product part, again, not having understood the whole thought process, because it seems a little esoteric to me. And outside of my continued advice to you to articulate it in a much more sharper manner, because only you can do that, I think is the question of, if you're too many things to too many people, it doesn't work. So while you've said most people don't make you feel happy, sad, know what you're doing, guide you, mentor you, all of that, I don't think sometimes you need to figure out and do some research whether people are looking for 10 in one things when it comes to products like these in the first place. And you could be missing a beat by thinking I'm packing it in, but most people are looking for that 1, 2, 3 and out, and then it can evolve as you go forward, rather than having a fitness, come routine, come how do I go into happiness, because the different thought processes. Energy is one, calories one. People do fitness for different reasons. People do it for energy, people do it for losing weight, people do it for feeling good. Some people just do it at a particular age. Happiness is an evolved thought. The people who sometimes do exercising and burn out to just stay fit don't have the word happiness right in their mind. So again, almost like your description of your product, if you're not succinct about your offering, which is a little bit more focused and not too many things to too many people, it could be as risky for failure as you think it is so complete that it will succeed. That's my just off-the-cuff remarks.
The main reason I'm not coming out with all here, because I'm on air and talking here.
No, that's fine. So the main reason I'm coming out with general advice to you is because you're not being specific about your product.
Sure.
All the best.
Thank you.
Perfect. Move on to some questions that we got, Ronnie, from other set of folks who had sent in across their set of questions. The first one is from Vijay Kumar Adapa. His question is, as a first-generation entrepreneur, how can one validate their idea? Surveys as useful in this regard? Is that one of the options? And broadly, he's also requesting, how can Startup with UpGrad help you deal with it?
Well, I think what we try and do in the 3-month and 3-week course that we're setting out to do in UpGrad is to clear a lot of the cobwebs, answer some questions, but actually raise a lot more questions. And learning for me, at least in my life, has been the more questions that get answered and the more questions that somebody would have given to me, that's my best mentorship that I've ever had. People asking me questions that I never thought of, and me going, damn, why didn't I think of that before? If only somebody would have asked me that question and got me thinking. The main point with the second part, I think, is with, when you're listening to questions, you have to be open enough and open-minded enough to be able to listen to those questions and think they're actually meant for you, not they're meant for springing it back and giving a wise-ass answer. And most of the questions, it's how you digest it. It's not even how you reply to it at that particular point in time. It's how you sort of let it sink in and figure out that. So I think those are some of the things that we plan to do in UpGrad. Clarify a lot of cobwebs, clear a lot of things, talk very specifically about real life examples of people. And I think that's going to be interesting, and pose a lot more questions than I think you can do. To come back to your first point as a first generation entrepreneur, Mike, sorry, what was the specific question on as a first generation entrepreneur?
Yeah, the first question is, how should one go about validating your idea? Is it?
Yeah, I think the validation is a lot to do with the fact, if you can get team members in, most people think the holy grail is getting an investor in. Chances are, look, the investors coming in on your mindset. Investors not always can validate at that early stage. Experienced investors in venture capital and private equity have a lot more experience, but at that angel stage, chances are he's more enamored with what you're saying and is backing that. And you think, wow, I got a backing, means my idea must be great. Otherwise, why would somebody put in 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, or 50 lakhs? And both of you all are on a course for a little bit of a disaster. So just watch out for that. I think it's the question of your ability to attract team members, and I'm just using the word co-founder loosely, but not everything is to boil down to a co-founder. But even team members that come in, that's also a great endorsement. Yes, research helps, but I think research helps do only one thing. It fine-tunes your sort of what I would call your gut or your impulse or your ability to think this thing through more clearly. Research or surveys is just to give you more guidelines and sort of endorse, question, or add up more to fine-tune your gut. But at the end of the day, at that early stage, and in most stages after that, the decision has to be yours. And you have to bear the consequences, and you'll get all the credits.
Perfect. There was another question, Ronnie, you may enjoy it even more. Rahul Narang has sent across his question asking that he's a CA dropout and he wanted to pursue business, but everyone in his family, friends said, get a degree first and then start, because that's at least your backup option. So the question from his side is, how important is any professional degree with regards to starting a business?
I want to clarify and be very clear from my personal experience that it is a very strong personal choice. If it is to get a degree to have a plan B to fall back on if an entrepreneurship doesn't work, that's where I personally have a little bit of a problem, because if you decided to go out and choose the course of entrepreneurship or going out and being on your own, there will be many times where you will have setbacks. There will be many times where you'll feel, okay, this was not for me, but I always have my degree, which means I can always get a job. That, in your most troubled times, is going to force you to go into plan B, which is to go get yourself back into a job, and then cutting your ambitions short. So if it is as a fallback arrangement and as a plan B, personally, I'm not in favor of it. If it is because you feel, I want to have 2 years of professional experience, then I want to get 2 years of this, and it'll all harden me up and wisen me. And look, life is too young right now, and I can take those 4 years and then start something my own, by all means do it.
Another interesting question from Saloni Jaydhara. She wants to get an answer to, how do you manage to balance delegation by empowering employees in your company, which is a startup, but yet manage to maintain the control?
Critical word, which is balance. The main thing is you have to keep a balance. The fact of the matter is that in those early days, you have to a certain extent, delegate because of two reasons. One is, at some stage or the other, that's how it should work, because otherwise, what is that person coming in there? How is that person going to grow? So if you really want to create a culture of empowerment, you have to delegate. The second one is, it forces you to start from an early stage being dead clear about one single message, which you normally think you're the best person to execute everything, and the answer is you're not. So you're better off delegating, because with that comes diverse set of ideas, people who challenge you, and therefore you'll get a lot more out of it, because you're delegating means somebody else is also inputting in how to get it best done. And so this perception that only you can execute it best from day one changes and sets up a new culture. And I think the third part there is you definitely need to stay on top of it. Delegation is not about writing the notes, sending it out and forgetting about it. You need to be on top of it. But top of it in a delegatory manner is one where you're involved, but you respect the other person's ability to go out and execute it. You respect the way they're going to carry out and do it, provided you're confident that the person, he or she, can carry it out. Otherwise, you wouldn't be delegating it to the same person. Third, to share the credit with that person. Fourth, actually to stand by them in case they do make mistakes, thinking it's fine, it's okay, I would have done this and I was in your place, so don't worry about it. Let's do it this way, or let's try it another way, or go out and try it another way. I think all of this creates an incredible amount of culture from day one. First, for yourself and a discipline that you're not the cat's whiskers, which you're definitely not, all of us, and creating a culture where people start believing it's also me and my company.
Perfect. I think just sort of moving on to the team and the question on team, one of the concerns that a lot of folks starting up is they are limited on resources. So Amrish Chaudhary has a question, Ronnie. How do you hire and retain star performers when you have limited budget when you're starting up?
A definition of a star performer is someone you have to define. A definition of a star performer is not from a recruitment agency or person's CV. A star performer for you is someone who understands the culture, understands the business, and is going to be a tremendous value add for you, and you see it as a long-term person. So I think we start with the assumption that a star performer is somebody who's been a rock star somewhere else and is coming in and now I need to retain him. I think the first thing is he may be a rock star somewhere else, but is he or she going to be a rock star with you? And that may not be the case. So I think attracting people like-minded with like-minded vision who understand the clarity of your thought and clarity of your vision is very important. We get sometimes enamored because somebody's CV or somebody's background, or they just came up from another startup that got well funded, means you think that's the answer to everything else, and most of the cases not. Because we don't know the factors from where he came, where's the teamwork one, who was really the credit for what they want to do. The second then comes to retention, which is your question, and I think that really depends back again to the culture that you set in the organization. From the day one, there's a reason why that person joined. If he's joined for your vision, most people like to stay on because they love the culture of a company and they're learning from their peers and from the person they're interacting with or they're reporting to. So I think if these two environments are something that you can create, and at least for your immediate reportees, if they believe that they're looking up to you and they're learning, I don't think at that stage, an offer of 10% here or there is going to make a difference. And the third part is it's always difficult at a startup stage to be able to hire the right people because you believe that I need to only cut my coat and I need to hire only based on my present budgets. That is really where the big challenge comes about. And that's when clarity of vision, them getting excited, thinking, what the hell, I'll learn here. And in 2 years' time, I believe this company can go somewhere and I'll be able to, I think the founder is fair-minded enough to reward me at that stage. All of these will help. Everything else is theoretical.
Just the last question. We have 1 minute left on this session. It's a question from Gaurav, Ronnie, which is, how difficult is it for you to switch from an industry or from the film industry to education sector? What growth you expect on online learning in the next 5 years in India?
I think I wouldn't call myself moving from the film industry. I think it was media and entertainment. By the time we started off, we were diversified into many things. So it was much more media and entertainment than the film industry. But I think what it taught me were 3-4 things that I think I can carry to any part, which is the importance of building a brand, the importance of a B2C play versus a B2B play, the importance of thinking big and thinking scale, and the importance of bringing in talent and building team members and having that strong sense of ownership in an industry which most people did not treat with that much of respect at that stage, and how to attract those people and how to retain them and how to have them a strong sense of ownership. So I think those are key lessons for me to be able to migrate to any sector. My personal excitement with the education sector right now is it's sitting at the cusp, even more than what I thought media was and entertainment was sitting 15 years back. And specifically online, because the challenges that we face in India when it comes to scale is a limited amount of faculty, and online solves that problem very immediately because you can get the best access to best faculty. Second, our ability to bring in a lot of talented people as guests and whatever else onto our online programs, even people who are entrepreneurs and whatever else, or people in professionals, or people with great learning, which they would never take time off into a classroom, online is incredible. The third is the interactivity of it. I think, and fourth, most of you all, I think, want to continue to run your professional jobs or careers while you're doing a top-up in whatever course you do in online. It's not just on entrepreneurship, but in everything else. And I think online allows you to have that flexibility. And I think that's really where we're all excited about what we want to build at UpGrad.
All right, perfect. I think that takes us to the end of the session. Guys, thank you very much for attending the session. It was sort of good to have those sort of piercing questions posed to Ronnie. Thank you very much, and we look forward to staying in touch. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
Ronnie. Thank you so much, Ronnie. Nice talking to you. Thank you.